Welcome to Peter and Roughie's Football Show, sponsored by Arnold Clark. It's Thursday, 22nd of October. I'm Peter Martin, Alan Rough, Tam Cowan and Steven Naismith are with me on the show. All you have to do is like, share and follow us on our Facebook and subscribe. Hit that red button and you're with us on YouTube as well. We're also on Twitter, and across those three platforms you have the chance, obviously, to give us your thoughts on European football. The Europa League will dominate our thoughts tonight. Of course, over and above that, player contracts seems to be at the forefront of one specific manager's mind. There's still COVID problems for St Mirren. We will discuss that in the next couple of seconds. And, of course, there's the small matter of football to look forward to at the weekend as well. So, lots to get our teeth into. And, of course, Roughie, it's great to have Tam back because, there's a period when you're not in contact with him, you start to worry about Tam and whether he is about, whether he's just staying in his room, and then you go to Instagram and you realise he's okay.
He's touring as well. My daughter keeps me up to touch with everything he's on and everything he posts every day. So no, he keeps a lot of people with a smile on their face during this pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just trying to enjoy beautiful, beautiful Scotland, Peter. That's what I'd advise every day. Get out there, get yourself a wee hire of a motorhome. You can't beat it. See beautiful places like St Monans, Oban, Fort William, Glen Nevis. We live in a beautiful country, and we don't know when we're going to be next on an aeroplane. So get out there and do it. It's a terrific place in which to live.
Why the 2 days at Drumchapel? That just fancied that.
When was in Drumchapel? Drumchapel is a place. I was terrified. See, when we hired the motorhome last week, I thought the 5-mile travel restriction was going to kick in. So, where I live, I nearly spent a week in Scotstoun, which would have been brutal. But
well, I was actually going to say to you, yeah, by all means, discover Scotland, but not with the current restrictions we've got with your best friend and the Chief Medical Officer, Jason Leach. We've got to try and, of course, keep it in check at the moment and make sure we follow all the rules. I can tell you, just at that point we were talking about, and this is basically 3 players positive and a member of the coaching staff at St Mirren. The game is on as it stands at the weekend, but I have to say it's another 3 players, Roughie. That's worrying times for them.
Yeah, I think the most worrying thing for the clubs are that these particular clubs are doing everything in their power to prevent it. You know, they've got all the protocol, they've got all the tests, they've got all the bubble stuff, they've got everything that's going. That'll be the most galling thing, that these things are happening on a regular occurrence now, because I'm sure they would have thought that, we'll be okay. And it's horrible for that club in particular, for it continually, to affect them, because, it's not something you want your club to be talked about all the time, because people start doubting, are you doing it properly and all that stuff? And I'm sure they are. I think most of the clubs are really responsible in everything that they're doing.
Is breaking at the moment. I mean, St Mirren are due to play Hamilton. I know Brian Rice is not for teams being awarded a 3-0 victory in the 3 points. Alec Dyer has also been speaking about it. Here's what the Kilmarnock manager had to say on this, forfeiting the game.
For games-wise, there's enough time to fit these games in. Like I said, as long as no one's doing anything out of order, then we can fit them games in any time. As long as people are well and healthy and fit to come back and play, just move on. It's just people want to make headlines, and it's no need to make headlines.
I don't know where it came out of left field, Steven Naismith, but it's certainly a story that gathered pace over the last couple of weeks. If players are not fit and they can't field a full team, award a 3-0 victory to the other team. I don't know where that emerged from, but it's certainly been kicked into touch by most people.
I think so. I think, yes, it's a different question if a club have broke the rules and for whatever reason the virus is spread through the club. That is one issue, but the real world here, this is a pandemic. It's part of the consequences of starting football again. I mean, it's day-to-day life goes on. People's families and other halves who are out working, it's as easy as that getting spread around. So there has been common sense with this. I don't think, like the managers have said, that we'll find a way to fit the games in. If there's no wrongdoing, then a club can't get punished. It'll turn the league into a bit comical, really.
Yeah, I always felt sorry for Ian Blair when he was working at the SPFL, Tam, because he had to work out, that many games during the season just under a normal circumstance of a normal season's card and not upset anybody. Anybody who's doing it now, they must be pulling their hair out.
Yeah, absolutely. You had sympathy for Ian Blair. I obviously have got the same sympathy these days for Peter Lawwell as he, of course, draws up the annual fixtures now. And I think, I totally agree with Alan Dyer there, Peter. If nobody has done anything amiss, this indeed is a global pandemic we're talking about. If you've not had them to let Mr. Bolingoli flying away to go on holiday, if you've not had them to let the 8 Aberdeen players going out for a night out and sitting together, then we just need to try and get on with it. And the reason that it seems pretty bad at St Mirren just now, I would reckon, and I'm no medical expert, is because it is a virus, and the nature of the virus is that it spreads. And because St Mirren have already had players who had fallen to the virus, then it shouldn't surprise anybody that other people in and around the club are going to get this virus. But I totally agree with you, Peter. I wouldn't like to see us going down the road to the 3-0 victories being awarded, because even though Mon Team Motherwell have got 2 outstanding fixtures against Kilmarnock and St Mirren, as much as it'd be lovely to think that they'll just be put up in the league table as 3-0 wins to Motherwell, 6 points, 6 goals. I don't need to tell professionals like Steven Naismith that the Motherwell manager, Stevie Robinson, his assistant Keith Lasley, and all the Motherwell players would sooner just play games. They're not really thinking about getting an extra few points on the board now. They want to play football, because looking at the bigger picture, that's what they need. They need game time. They need players to be match fit. So I think every case should be treated on its own merits, and we should just try to soldier on.
Yeah, absolutely. Afternoon from Palm Springs in sunny California for Darren today. Good to have you on board with us, Darren. And of course, nice. Michael Banks says, "Wee chippy Tam." Nice to see him there. And we all have to follow the guidelines, says Alice and Sarah Carroll. Yep, and I think that's something that we are indeed trying to do on a regular basis. Follow the rules. I just wonder if they would have suggested that, Roughie, if it hadn't been at the start of the season when Aberdeen and Celtic, one Celtic player and those Aberdeen players, the 8 of them, had broken the rules. Maybe now, I think that might have changed people's attitude to a 3-0 if it had been now. I still think it was abundantly clear at the start of the season, but if it had been now, there might have been a greater clamour for a 3-0 victory.
Yeah, I think so. But as Tam said there, I think everybody's learnt their lesson. I think everybody knows how serious it is now, how long it's been going on for, and I would like to think that all the players have been brought into the dressing room and given strict rules of everything they can do and everything they can't do, and then taking it from there. So that's why I'm saying it'd be disappointing for any club if all of a sudden they were hit by 2 or 3 players, because it must have been out with their control with all the stuff that they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a fair old...
Incidentally, Peter, in more important matters, the caller who mentioned, or the viewer who mentioned the wee chippy, we need clarification here, because I've been in 2 of them recently. There's one in Mauchline. Yeah. There's one down in Mauchline, which is absolutely superb. Steven Naismith might know it. When I was travelling around the motorhome, I was in the wee chippy that's in Anstruther, or Ainster if you prefer. If it's the Ainster one, I highly recommend the smoked haddock supper. If you've never tried smoked haddock done chippy style, out of this world. And if you go down to the Mauchline one, I would ask for the large special haddock supper, which is sublime.
Yeah, okay, we're just writing that down in case Stevie didn't get that on the supper. The other thing, can I just remind people on the programme, just because obviously I like to keep things above board, Peter Lawwell doesn't actually make up the SPFL Premiership fixtures, just in case you believe everything that comes out of the show. Anyway, let's go. Let's crack on.
Right, he picked one of them. He organised one of the fixtures, right? The 11th game of the first quarter, Celtic against Rangers. He organised that one. Can you see a zip in my back here? Dear me.
Right, let's crack
on. By the way, what's happened to Celtic and Rangers, Peter, with this big super duper European league that Liverpool and Man United are talking about? I thought Celtic and Rangers, they keep telling us, we're a world brand and everybody watches their games, and the Old Firm derby's the biggest fixture in the planet. They don't appear to have got a phone call about this at all. Have you been telling porkies all these days, Peter?
I have to tell you, Tam, it was really, really big teams that were trying the breakaway, not teams from the Europa League, to be honest with you. But in saying that, I'll just pick up on that point that you made there, because Gianni Infantino has said today, and of course he's the president of FIFA, that they are not interested in backing any kind of breakaway from the super clubs in some kind of European Super League. Now, the fact that Gianni Infantino is saying that is neither here nor there, because we absolutely all know this is just the precursor to the millionaires and billionaires actually pushing it and pushing it and pushing it to try and get their own way. And if they don't get their own way, what they do is they throw up this scaremongering story to every journalist who will read it, write it, and do anything they want, so that they can actually then get a greater slice of the UEFA pie and puts UEFA under pressure. This is all a ruse by the greedy people who run some of the super clubs in Europe. One of them, Karl-Heinz Rummenigge, I have no time for. I would walk across the road, wouldn't even ask him for his autograph, because he and others across the whole of Europe are the driving force between the normal clubs. They just want everything. They want the complete cake, and all the scraps will be to all the other Diddy teams. And I include, at this moment in Scotland, sadly, Celtic and Rangers, because they are no longer a European force. So that clears that up. Now, what about contracts? What about Steven Gerrard mentioning there, Steven Naismith, that Connor Golson, it'd be nice to get him on a longer-term deal. He certainly would like that. And, of course, Glenn Kamara, who played really well in the game against Celtic, Stevie.
The two names are the two that stood out in the game. I think the manager's been really clever with it. I think that, especially with Kamara, he's got a fair few years left on his deal, but the manager, by doing this, builds his relationship with the player, and I think it's very smart, as Gerrard will have experienced over the years as a player. The two of them, in their Rangers career, probably in the early days, have had question marks against them, whether they're good enough, they're consistent enough, but both of them are showing at the start of this season that they're going to be, and they are big players for Rangers.
Yeah, absolutely. And whether the board can actually match his ambition and desire to get them on a contract quickly before somebody snaps them up remains to be seen. Of course, Celtic and Rangers involved in Europa League. Our reporter Gabriel Antoniazzi sets the scene.
Thanks, Peter, and good afternoon from outside Celtic Park ahead of tonight's Europa League opener with AC Milan. Hoops come into the game off the back of Saturday's 2-0 defeat here to Rangers in the Old Firm. And even though manager Neil Lennon admits that everything is not okay and that his team have been performing below par, he thinks tonight is a great chance to turn that around. Ryan Christie comes back into the fold, but Alton Edouard, Nia Biton and Hatem Abd El Hamed all still miss out with COVID-related issues. Tonight's Italian opponents are, of course, 7-time European champions, and Zlatan Ibrahimovic will be playing, amongst others.
They have had a tough period. That sometimes happens to big clubs, but I think the new coaches come in and give them the new vibrancy. They've got great young talent in the team, and obviously with Ibrahimovic, great experience and quality. And they've made a fantastic start to their domestic season.
Rangers are in Belgium to face Standard Liège in tonight's early kick-off. GS boss Steven Gerrard has never won an away tie in the group stage, and he'll be hoping that can change this evening, especially since their opponents have been struck down with several COVID cases.
They've got, you know, strong pedigree over the years in Europe, a good home record. Certainly over the last 10 games, they're in good form. So we're under no illusions. This is going to be really a real tough night.
So the first of these Europa League triple headers are tonight, and both Glasgow sides will be looking to get off to strong starts and take good form back into Sunday's Premiership action.
Yeah, thanks to Gabriel there, or Gavin, as Roughie calls him. He's fourth in the table, standardly aged. They're fourth in the table, and they've been unbeaten in 7 games, and they have a good record at home. But I don't know, I've got a good feeling, Tam, about Rangers at the moment because of this. You know, you talk about momentum, but there is a feeling that they're all playing for the manager. There seems to be a stronger mentality about them.
Absolutely, and for the outside looking in, Peter, as a Motherwell fan, I must say, I don't know if Steven Naismith agrees, but I don't think Rangers get the credit they deserved at the weekend. I was on the radio at the same time as the game, but I went home at night, put my feet up and watched the entire fixture, and I thought Rangers were good for obvious reasons, for all the trophies and titles that Celtic have won. Perhaps the onus, or rather the focus, was always going to be in the fact Celtic lost the game and, of course, didn't get a shot on target, which seems quite incredible. But I don't think Rangers get the credit they deserved, and you're right, they must be very confident now, and it is a free hit, to use that old cliche, when they play Standard Liège tonight, because, you know, it would take something pretty eventful for the Rangers fans to suddenly get on Steven Gerrard and the players' backs after the weekend result. Ultimately, as we all know, this season is all about the domestic league as far as Celtic and Rangers fans are concerned. Celtic want to win 10, Rangers want to prevent 10. So in many respects, they both could just go out and enjoy the European stuff. And personally, as you can see, I've got my goonie on already. I like the old double headers. It's going to be strange, but much better for my liver. Probably no watching them in the pub like previous years. That double hitter was a bit hard on the barbell, but I'm looking forward to seeing Big Zlatan tonight playing for AC Milan, and I'm looking forward to both fixtures. Bring it on.
Yeah, I have to say, and yeah, I'm never one to pull my punches on this, Roughie, and I don't really like getting involved in any criticism of any other broadcast organisation, because I always like all of us to flourish. I think there's room for everybody, Roughie. But Tam's just blethering a lot of nonsense there, because it must have been in the BBC that they get absolutely no credit for winning the Old Firm game, Roughie, because they certainly got a lot of credit on our programme for it, Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday, Roughie.
Yeah, I think anybody who watched the game would give Rangers credit. They won the game quite comfortably. It wasn't a backs to the wall for Celtic, but they controlled the game. And as the guys have already, discussed, Celtic 3 or 4 players short. You wouldn't expect Rangers to. They had to go out and do what they did, and they did it, and they won quite convincingly.
Yeah, so no real criticism of the BBC from Roughie there. He just fudged the whole bloody question. So thanks for that, Roughie. What a absolute! Are you on the BBC this week, Roughie? Because clearly we gave Rangers credit. What a lot of crap from Cowan. Rangers get more than enough credit for it. They actually won the game. I said
in general terms, Peter. In general terms, you must admit. You must admit the main focus was about how poor Celtic were, and even Celtic fans, which I thought was a wee bit of a knee-jerk reaction, even looking at the future of Neil Lennon as the manager. But we've seen it all before. When I've seen it when Motherwell go and beat Celtic or Rangers on the odd glorious occasion that happens, it's all about Celtic and Rangers losing rather than Motherwell winning. And I just thought there was a wee element of that this time around. I'm only being fair.
Yeah, I've been fair. Don't forget, guys, you can see Roughie on the BBC 9 tonight in an exclusive interview, and he's also doing Roughie, my top 10 singles and my World Cup years on the BBC this week. So that's absolutely fantastic. Don't miss that if you can. The other thing I was going to say, Steven Naismith,
is it 1 o'clock Monday? Is it 1 o'clock Saturday, Tom?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know why you're asking. You get a word in with those two. Stevie, one of the things that Tam did mention there, which I thought was very relevant, is people calling for Neil Lennon's head. I think, if it is a genuine Celtic fan who's saying get rid of Lennon, I think they need to go away and take a long, hard look at themselves. What a lot of nonsense.
Yeah, it is the knee-jerk reaction. I think it's probably on the back of how disappointing the performance was. It's not like the Celtic we have seen. They've been through the hard periods and the times. They've managed to grind results out, even if the performances haven't been there. I think the performance at the weekend lacked that. But what Neil Lennon's done for Celtic, and to come in on the back of Brendan Rodgers and do what he has done, he deserves credit for. Also, with this season being the going for 10, that brings so much more pressure on Celtic and much more of a pressure on the fans just wanting it to happen. So I think it's just a combination of everything like that, rather than, like you said, anybody that's a real Celtic fan will know he's worth to Celtic.
Yeah, and I think, Tam, we are getting. I mean, we're having a joke about the whole thing about who's getting. Peter said, "Have you paid your internet bill as your Facebook is down?" No, I think we're all fine across all of the networks at the moment. It must be yours, but I would say this. Tam, we were joking about the whole BBC thing, but now we're in a situation where I think people are throwing grenades right, left and centre. Neil Lennon is, I don't know why he's listening to some of the noise, Neil Lennon is now calling for an apology from Maurice Ross because Maurice said he thought it was the weakest Celtic team in 20 years. Now, if Maurice thinks that, fair play to him. Should he say it because he's a representative of Motherwell? I don't know. That's open to debate, but it's an opinion. If he thinks that, he thinks that. It doesn't. I don't think it requires an apology. Do you?
Yeah, I can see Neil Lennon's point, okay, because Maurice Ross is on the books at Motherwell, part of the coaching staff, but I'm pretty sure that Maurice Ross, a guy who's been immersed in Scottish football since he was a laddie, I dare say that was just his own opinion. He wasn't necessarily wearing the Motherwell tracksuit or the Motherwell blazer, you know.
Yeah.
But and I sometimes wonder if there's been many a football man who, when he's been involved with a club at the time, has still appeared on maybe the radio or the telly and tried to give his own honest opinion. But I just wonder if there are wee shades there, because quite a few folk have hit back at Maurice Ross. And, you can't disguise the fact that he's got Rangers Football Club on his CV. And maybe this is where a lot of the angst is coming from and a lot of the flack that's been volleyed back towards Mo Ross.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure as well, Roughie, that it is the worst team that Celtic have had, in 20 years. I only have to look back at Ronnie Dialis 2 years in charge. Boy, they were murder to watch.
Yeah, they certainly were, but I can see when Neil Lennon would get a bit annoyed about that. Tam's already touched on the Rangers content and Morris. I'm not saying that's why he did it. I'm just saying, but if every manager was to look at a result of the weekend and want to throw his tuppence worth into how the other team's doing, I don't think it'd be the right thing to do. I don't think we want to go down that road. So better just keeping your own thoughts to yourself on that one.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the main crux of the matter is you live or die by your results. Whether people either like Neil Lennon or dislike him, or like Steven Gerrard or dislike him, this season of all seasons, I have to say, Steven Naismith, both managers will come under intense pressure if suddenly that league is slipping away. There will be calls for their head, but those managers are getting paid enough of a salary to know, don't win games, could face the sack.
100%. I think Steven Gerrard had it at the end of last season, or even from the cup final in the January, he took a lot of pressure because they didn't win that. So it is, the season in a whole is so much more pressure on it because what's at stake. Both Rangers got the upper hand at the moment because the result, and it's all going well, but it can quickly change. It really can. So hopefully it leads to an entertaining season.
Yeah, absolutely.
Peter, can I ask yourselves, Roughie as well, and Stevie, but sorry, Roughie, I'm just wondering about, in terms of pressure being on managers, is this a better time for a manager under pressure with no fans in at the ground? Because if I give you one example, when Mark McGee, his last game for Motherwell, second time around was a 5-1 home thumping by Dundee. I think it was actually even 5-1 at half time, which never looks good, okay? And lo and behold, the fans were really, really creating hell. They were getting right on his back. They were getting on the players' back. There were shouts up for the fans up towards the directors. And, you know, without the fans being there that day, you know, I wonder if Mark might have been able to cling on and suddenly you get a couple of good results back and you're still in charge. So, if I can ask Steven Naismith and Roughie that, if the manager did have his jacket in a sugary nail, is it a good thing that there are no fans there, or a bad thing?
For me, it is a good thing. The biggest one that springs to mind for me was when George Burley was kind of coming to the end of his Scotland time. We played Wales away, and the fans surrounded the technical area effectively from the stand, which was toxic, really. And it should, in all honesty, it shouldn't happen, but it did. And I think that the anger and that builds up with anybody inside the stadium can lead to doing some daft stuff. So it definitely helps all round, and it keeps everybody more calm. I think from directors to even the manager and what he does in the final times to try and cling on to his job. So it definitely helps a manager not having a fans there.
Roughie?
Yep. Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. It's not the first time we've seen the fans turning on the owners of the club or the directors of the club, and verbally, you know, while they've got guests in, or whoever, their family or whatever, and then all of a sudden somebody says, like, we need to get this sorted out, we need to have a meeting and discuss, you know, where we're going here or what's happening. So yeah, I would agree with that. I think no fans in would take the pressure off a wee bit. But I would also add the guys, for whatever reason, the supporters for whatever reason, who start having a go at Neil Lennon or Stephen Gerrard, aren't they really the fans that look at what the two of them have done for the club since they got there? So for me, it's people jumping on the bandwagon, people who didn't like them for the start and have now got an excuse to vent their anger. And I think they just sit and wait for these kind of games to come along.
Yeah, okay. These kind of games are happening tonight. I think by the time we will just be going off, Tam, there'll be an hour before Rangers are about to kick off against Standard Liège. I fancy them for a 2-1 win. What about you?
Well, you know me, Peter, particularly in European football, when it's a bit tight and a bit cagey, I'm a fan of a 0-0. So I'm actually, as much as I've got my smoking jacket on just now, I'm going to pop the clothes on and get up to the bookies and do my wee classic bet of the 2 singles and the double on a 0-0, the Celtic game, and before that 0-0, the Rangers game.
Yeah, and funnily enough, one of our cameramen, Roughie, who's a big Man United fan, turned around and suggested to me, he said, "Oh, I might go up the bookies and put a tenner on Ibrahimovic 2 goals or more." So he's clearly buying into it. A tenner, Ibrahimovic 2 goals or more. To which I replied to him, I wouldn't go 2 goals or more, maybe 2, but not 2 goals or more. Roughie, what are you going for, Standard Liège Rangers first of all?
I've been impressed with Rangers in Europe, particularly away from home. I think they've got certain players who can control the tempo of these games. Obviously, Standard Liège, I've got 4 or 5 players out. But for me, the Rangers' successes in these games is all about Alan McGregor. We don't seem to talk about Alan McGregor in the league games. When it comes to the European games, he's the goalkeeper who makes the big saves, and I'm sure he will make another couple tonight. I'm not going to go for a Rangers win. I'm going to go for a 1-each draw.
Yeah. The reason why we don't mention the goalkeepers, Roughie, is basically because very few goalkeepers that I know have an opinion. You know, that's why we never really mention them on programmes, and they don't really win Player of the Year awards, Roughie. So just clarifying why we don't usually mention the goalkeepers. Stevie,
some of them, let me get my tuppence worth.
Oh, I go on then.
Yeah, European Cup, if you've got a decent goalkeeper, just ask anybody for Liverpool.
Yeah, absolutely. Look at him. By the way, Stevie, every now and then I have to poke him with a stick just to try and get him fired up for it all. Last week, Stevie, before you come on the show, you should have heard him. On Monday and Tuesday, he was the hardest hitting pundit you've ever heard, slaughtering Scotland. Scotland were going nowhere.
No.
By the time we got to the game, I think Scotland could win. I'm really positive about them.
No, but
Stevie.
Tam said something earlier that nearly set me off again when he said Celtic never had a shot on target. You don't need to win games if you've not got a shot on target. You know, been watching Scotland.
Yeah. Tam, don't answer that. Let Stevie. What do you think? Standard Liège. Standard Liège.
I think Rangers. I'm swaying between the draw or Rangers kind of win, but I think they'll be solid. I can't see them conceding a goal, if I'm honest. That's the biggest thing that I feel.
Okay, John Donald says Rangers 1-1 tonight. Patrick is in Bulgaria. He's a Celtic fan. Gary McGurn says, Peter, Celtic don't become a bad team overnight. And Billy Hutchison, who's a big Rangers fan, Billy every now and then puts across some very good points. And then again, like today, Billy says, I think it'll be AC Milan 6-0 up at half-time. So, as you can see, sometimes people just batter the Merry Downsider early on and just go crazy. So everybody's got an opinion, but I'm not sure, Billy. If it's 6-0, I think there'll be a few people calling for Neil Lennon's head and they won't even be on the ground. Celtic against AC Milan. I do fancy the big man, the god of Milan, as he likes to call himself. I do fancy Zlatan to do a bit of damage tonight, Tam.
Yeah, I mean, he's a legend, you know. I know he knows it himself, Peter, and there's nobody likes talking him up more than himself. But yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons, I think, though, for tuning in tonight. Sometimes when you dip into the Europa League, it loses a wee bit of the lustre of the Champions League, and for the neutral spectator, they might even think twice about digging out the games tonight and tuning in, particularly again with the no crowd thing, which has totally killed games. But if you've got a man like big Ibrahimovic playing there tonight, and the guy's kidding on about him being 6-0 up at half time, but even as somebody that's betting 0-0, I do think it'd be strange if he didn't get in the score sheet, because he must have, if he saw the video, he must have seen the Celtic defence against Rangers, that performance, and he immediately had a Deza corner, because they were woeful, and that man can put the ball in the back of the net. So he's the guy they've got to snuff out tonight, absolutely no doubt. And I think Celtic will be doing well tonight to get a 0-0.
Yeah, here's a wee look at the stats from AC Milan.
Celtic's start to their Europa League campaign could not be much harder as they host European giants AC Milan in Group H this evening. Milan were formed at the end of the 19th century and play at the San Siro, which they share with rivals Inter. Manager Stefano Pioli nearly left in the summer, but is firmly at the helm now. In terms of silverware, they've won 18 Serie A's and 5 Coppa Italias, but their main successes have come in Europe. Milan boast 7 European Cups, 2 Cup Winner Cups, 5 Super Cups and 1 Club World Cup. The Rossoneri also have players such as Zlatan Ibrahimovic and Gigi Donnarumma, although playmaker Hakan Çalhanoğlu is unavailable. Hoops wing-back Diego Laxalt is of course on loan from the Italians as well. After starting last season poorly, they managed to finish 6th to make it into the Europa League qualifiers, where they beat Shamrock Rovers, Bodo Glimt and Rio Ave of Portugal. They're currently top of Serie A and the only team in Europe's top 5 leagues to have won every single game. They are unbeaten in 20 matches, so it seems it would take a huge performance from Celtic to change that later.
Yes, and of course, Steven Naismith, every now and then we do like people with a wee bit of arrogance, but big shyness, Ibrahimovic, he's got it in abundance. He's scored 5 goals already this season, and I think he's brilliant for the game because, I think some of it's tongue-in-cheek. There is a tremendous amount of humility. I've asked a few players who've actually played in the same team as him, and I think the general feeling is, he knows he's at the wind-up sometimes.
Yeah, I think he does the same. Any player that I know that has played with him say the same things. He's a character, and he backs up a lot of his claims. A lot of his claims are bold and he seems to back them up. Going to Man U at that time when they were a poor team, you would say he produced. I'm looking forward to him and Bruni going at it tonight, if I'm honest. If there's one man that you want to get in about him, it's Bruni.
Can I ask you as well, Peter, about another player tonight? Can I ask you about Diego Laschalt, if I've pronounced his name correctly? What does it say about him that he's allowed to play against his parent club? You know, if I was a Celtic fan, I'd be kind of worried about that. Why are AC Milan allowing him to play against them? What do they know that Neil Lennon and his coaching staff don't know?
Well, it's not so much that they're allowing him to play. It's the rules have changed on players being allowed to play as well, unless there's sometimes you have to put it in the contract or you're not doing the deal, Roughie. But certainly European competition, if you sign that player on loan now, you can actually play him against his parent club.
No, I think all credit
Seems
to Milan,
strange.
you know, for allowing them to play. They seem to have a policy that if they do let somebody go out on loan, they're quite happy for the bite back if it happens. So no, credit them. It's a ruling that really gets me over here, that clubs give players on loan and you can't play them, you know, when you come up against them. If he's not good enough to play for your team, then he should be good enough to play for the other team against you. So well done to Milan for this one.
Yeah.
So Peter,
think,
if it's 0-0, Peter, if it's 0-0 in the last minute, 0-0 with Celtic and AC Milan, we're into the last minute, it's a corner to AC Milan, the Celtic box is mobbed, the corner gets fizzed in, and it hits off Laschalt's shoulder and goes in for a 1-0 win to AC Milan. Everybody's going to think that's fine.
Yeah, absolutely, because that's the rules. That's the rules. I mean, at the end of the day, Tam, I don't know if you're aware of this, but just prior to anybody kicking a ball, there was a vote and everybody thought the vote was going to go a particular way. And then at the last minute, somehow it changed. That's the way football goes, Tam. I don't know if you remember that, but that's how it happens, you know. So if Laschalt scores in the last minute for AC Milan as an own goal, I think it will probably sum up most Celtic fans' week and how they think it's all going. But
if Celtic get a penalty and he steps up to take it, then you'll have problems.
Listen,
don't you think, seriously, don't you think it's absolutely bonkers? Bear in mind, we're seeing it from that angle. This is, Steven Naismith mentioned him earlier. I imagine it was Scott Brown who had gone on loan to AC Milan and Scott Brown was playing against Celtic tonight. That's kind of how bonkers this is. It's ridiculous.
Well, hold on a minute. Let's get the definitive answer on it then. Stevie, you're a Rangers player. It's not going according to plan because the manager hasn't really put you in. He doesn't fancy you, and he puts you out on loan to Hearts. There's a minute to go. It's in a game, a crucial game. It's a penalty for Hearts, and they throw the ball to you. Stevie, talk me through it.
Nah, you're obviously trying to score. You're trying to get one out of the manager, aren't you? The manager thinks you're a dud. 100%.
Yeah, you want to score. I know exactly what. Listen, the one thing I know about footballers, and I include you in this, Roughie, from your days in the top flight when you were a top goalkeeper, they hate losing. I've never met a professional footballer that actually would concede anything. They'd batter you to win at tiddlywinks. It's like that, you know, and I love that. I love that attitude towards it. It's professionalism.
I get the point where Tam was talking about if you've got to go back to that team at the end of the month.
Yeah.
You know, I get that bit of it. But, you know, Stevie's saying, this boy's over here for Milan. He's obviously not getting a game with Milan. He's wanting to try and impress Celtic to get a contract at Celtic. So he's going to do everything in his power.
Yeah.
And you know what, Peter, for the Celtic fans who their tether after watching that performance at the weekend, if Celtic lose to AC Milan and Diego has a very, very quiet game, you know, he's going to get absolute pelters. Maybe obviously not in the stadium tonight, but he's going to get absolute pelters in social media and every other outlet. You know, if there'll be guys that'll accuse him of not trying a leg, and then the only way for him to make sure that doesn't happen, of course, is to go out and play a blinder and maybe score a hat trick. And then when he goes back to his parent club, he's got all of them to give him flack. So I feel that I would just leave him out tonight. It would make the whole world simpler.
Yeah, well, to be perfectly honest with you, I think a lot of sensible people who watch football don't listen to that noise. That's the thing that a lot of managers and players mention now. If you listen to the noise, which is completely and utterly erratic and so far-fetched that you let it dominate your life, the game's a bogey. Thanks to Kenny Whitson, who said Peter Schmeichel. Actually, Peter Schmeichel won the Player of the Year in England in 1996, because every now and then when I joke about goalkeepers, there's always somebody on me ready to leather me. So quite simply, yes, I'm aware that Peter Schmeichel won the Player of the Year in 1996. Thanks for that, Kenny. 24 years ago. Okay, here's the Rangers team for tonight's just in. McGregor, Tavernier, Goldson, Balogun is back. Barisic, Jack, Kamara, Arfield, Hadji, Kent and Morelos. And the subs, McLaughlin, Bassey, Helander, Davis, Itten, Patterson, Aribo, Barker, Stewart, Roof, Barionis and King. So, Stevie, what do you make of that team? Balogun comes in, Helander drops to the bench.
Yeah, I think he's done that last season with the centre halves. Haallander played a lot of the European games and not played in the league. But I think with Scotty Arfield playing in there as well, for me, he gives you the security of being solid, and as all the European games away from home have been, it's about being solid, kind of like the Celtic game, sit in and use our Kents or Morelos, guys like that to win the game for them.
Yeah, okay. I know Tam was mentioning 0-0 for the AC Milan game, but I don't think there's a... Roughie, just a personal opinion, I don't think there's a catch chance in hell at ending 0-0. I think AC Milan could win this one 2-0. Roughie, it's just an opinion.
Well, obviously Gabriel's summing up the Milan side of their history and everything, and I know we do. I just feel this team has to be talked up. I think sometimes we talk them up too much. And I know Ibrahimovic is a wonderful player. I'm going to go Celtic to get a draw. I don't know why. I just feel on the night they have to be better than what they are at the weekend. I still think they're pretty not as good up front, you know, with the players that are going to play there. But for some unknown reason, I think they're one each.
But yeah. Roughie, why do they need to be talked up? If they needed to be talked up, they wouldn't have been in the Europa League.
No, there's lots of teams.
Celtic should always be aware of that and get absolutely steamed in tonight.
Correct, that's what I'm saying. I'm sure that's what they will do. But I think teams like Milan and Barcelona and Juve come to Ibrox and they come to Parkhead and we rave about all the players, and all of a sudden, for some reason, no reason, Rangers get a draw, they win, or Celtic get a draw and they win. We know they're fantastic sides, we know they've got fantastic players, but it's not a given that you're going to win on any particular night.
Yeah, but dare I remind you, and this is what the whole game on a regular basis across Tam's show, across many of the shows on BBC, BT and Sky, is you offer your opinion based on the evidence that you've watched and what has unfolded before you. And on Neil Lennon's CV at the moment, I think a lot of fans were suffering the Ferencváros defeat because they thought it was a poor performance by Celtic to allow a mediocre team to put them out. They've watched the evidence of Celtic starting the season poorly, and they've watched the evidence of them losing a game against Rangers where they never really laid a glove on them, Stephen, which is why I am looking at the evidence, watching this team and thinking to myself, they should have turned up on Saturday. They just didn't. And they are, over the course of this season, not firing on all cylinders yet. So it's not a case of so much talking AC Milan up because they're not the side they once were, Stephen. It's more a case of looking at the evidence for me of what Celtic are producing at the moment, thinking this could be a tough ask even to score a goal.
Yeah, and with Edouard, it makes the job harder. I understand what Roughie's saying. I think if the manager who is known for getting his motivation is one of his good attributes, if ever he's going to get a reaction, he needs to get it tonight. But AC Milan are a team that are unbeaten. They beat Inter already this season. So I think it will be really tough for Celtic. I think it'll be close, but I think Milan will win it.
Okay then, so we've got all our scores in for it. Roughie, a draw would be a good result, by the way, and if that happens tonight, Roughie, I'm going along there to cover that match. If it does indeed happen a draw, then I will buy you tomorrow's gin that you put your fresh orange and your ice in every day, and usually have a sip around about half past 4. So anyway, on that note, listen,
Peter, can I just say, I'll tell you who'll be.
Tam?
Apart from us, you know that we love cheering on, and I do genuinely. I'll always cheer the Scottish teams in Europe. I reserve the right to have a wee laugh and a joke at any club, but when it comes down to Europe, I'll be cheering for both Scottish teams tonight. But I'll tell you who else will be cheering them on as well, just so they can maybe sneak up under the radar while Celtic and Rangers are keeping playing European games, and that must be Aberdeen, who I think have been in pretty tasty form of late. Nobody's talking about them in that league. Lewis Ferguson's goal the other night, Tuesday night, against Hamilton Accies was absolutely top drawer. And I think Aberdeen and the club's fans will be quite delighted if Rangers and Celtic have got 2 games every week for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, it's a good point. Well, we're going to actually just talk about Aberdeen, but before we do, here's the fixtures for the Europa League. If you are a big fan of it, you can choose Celtic, AC Milan, Sparta Prague, Lille, Standard Liège against Rangers is just about 10 minutes away from kickoff. Lech Poznan against Benfica, Spurs against Lask, Rapid Vienna Arsenal, Leicester City against Zorya Luhansk, and I think there's a second set of fixtures as well on that. I don't know if have I got every one of them there? I think I have. Yes,
an hour and 10 minutes, Peter. Peter, an hour and 10 minutes to kick off, not 10 minutes. 5 to 6 it kicks off.
It's an hour and 10 minutes. Sorry, people were just actually thinking we'll get 10 minutes, then we'll blow this mob off. Sorry about that.
We know that Bellshill is in a different time zone, but it's not an hour. Yeah. It's not an hour. It's about 40 years.
And the good news is I have your application for your visa to get back into the area that you left all those years ago. So we'll be reviewing that shortly, Cowan. Anyway, on that one. And Ronnie Porter is saying, you're a bit early, Peter. I'm sorry. David as well. 5:55. Rangers fans panicking there. Anyway, just on the point Tam was making there, Roughie, I have to say, I mean, I absolutely love it. Nobody's talking about Aberdeen, but the Aberdonians love talking about it, because I'm almost certain if Aberdeen could declare itself an independent state, it undoubtedly would do that, because quite simply, if you're an Aberdonian and you've heard Ryan Edmondson over the last 24 hours, suddenly you've got the battering ram out, you've got the sword in your hand, you've got the shield, because he's come out and for me, giving it the kiss of death, he said, this is the year the Dons can really push Celtic and Rangers for the title.
Yeah, as we all know, we've already discussed Tam McManus. That managerial up there is a high and a low. These Aberdeen supporters, 1 minute they're up there, next minute they're down. And Derek, I think, finds hard to deal with. On their day, Aberdeen are a match for both of them. It's just over consistency over the whole season, and I think they should just try and accept cup runs, and maybe a cup win would be fantastic for their season, because they're never going to win the league. They might be second or third. As far as I'm concerned, they don't have strength and depth for the whole season.
Yeah, okay. We got there in the end. 35 seconds to get there. That was Roughie's way of saying Steven Naismith, what a load of rubbish. I mean, honestly, if I've heard one Aberdeen player say it, why he couldn't have said that in the first 5 seconds instead of being nice to them? But what a load of rubbish. Because at the end of the day, I don't think they've got enough good players with the mentality to go and really, have a right go at them, go and fight. I mean, I like Lewis Ferguson. I think he's been top drawer. Johnny Hayes has gone back there and just fitted in again, but they haven't got they've not got enough battlers, Stevie, for me to actually believe they can go and fight them and beat them.
For me, I think the biggest thing is and from being at the Old Firm, the amount of games that are terrible, but you win 1-0, and won it at, in my day it was either a Yelovich, a Kenny, somebody would do a piece of magic that would win you the game. For me, Aberdeen just don't have enough of their guys that when it's so hard to dig in and you need that moment of magic. They have got players on their day that are very good. A lot of their best players are young, unpredictable, and the consistency is maybe the issue, but it's them match winners when you really need them. That Lee Griffiths, a prime example at St Johnstone away, pops up with a goal that wins them the game. Have Aberdeen got enough of their guys?
Yeah, I'm not sure they have. Tam, I think their best chance to actually win the league was when Ronnie Dyler was the manager. Never a better chance for Aberdeen to go and win that league, and they absolutely blew it. There was a period in October where they were flying, and Ronnie Dyler was the manager of Celtic, and I thought, if Aberdeen have got a bit about them, if Stuart Milne is sitting down with Derek McInnes, Stuart, go and sell 10 extra houses and buy me 2 extra players, and they could have taken them, but they didn't have it, and that was their best chance in the last 20 years.
Yeah, I think one of the great what-ifs, I remember saying a lot about that at the time as well, Peter, thinking that this could be the season where Aberdeen could really kick on. Their fans would have been, as you're suggesting there, just hoping and praying for a wee bit of extra investment at the time, and I think they really could have won the title that season. It's the same with big Stephen Presley on the radio was on Saturday, and he was almost misty-eyed looking back to the George Burley era at Hearts, when you think, if it hadn't been for Vladimir Romanov, absolutely dismantling all the good stuff at Tynecastle. That was another big what-if when, if you remember, with George Burley, I think they'd won their first 8 and drawn 2 out of the first 10 games of the season. So, fans will always look back at that and think we'll never, ever get a better chance. But I just, it'd be interesting to see if Aberdeen, I wonder if the no fans thing, in terms of what it could mean to Celtic and Rangers with 50, 60,000 crowds, I wonder if the no fans thing could maybe just be beneficial to Aberdeen this season. Who knows? But if they just keep, churning out results, and they've had some terrific results so far, they're right up there at the proper end of the league. You never know. They could just sneak in under the radar. Who knows?
It must be something that because we're certainly not buying into it. Although I do think they could have a major say in some of the upsets. That's one thing I think Aberdeen are more than capable of. I mean, they could derail Celtic in their league aspirations by winning up at Pittodrie at the weekend. Well capable of winning a one-off game. In fact, I think, Roughie, I'd have to go back to the team that had the likes of Hans Heelhouse in it. I think the manager was Alex Smith. That was possibly the best Aberdeen team since the Fergie years. And look what happened there. They won the Scottish Cup and they bumped him as well. In fact, Aberdeen usually bump their managers after they win a trophy because they bumped Roy Aitken after he won them the League Cup. Alex Smith should never have been sacked. And then there were countless managers up until then. Derek's won a League Cup. I've got a lot of time for Derek, but I think he should have won more.
Yeah, I think the Aberdeen supporters think they should have won more as well. If you continually get to Hampden semi-finals and finals, you would expect a lot more return, but for whatever reason it hasn't happened. But the more times you get to semi-finals and finals, you have to say to yourself, well, it's going to be this time. So I just think that's what the Aberdeen supporters should really concentrate on. The Scottish Cup and the League Cup. Because I don't think they're strong enough deep down. But you're right, in a one-off game up in Pittodrie, they're liable, to take on Rangers and Celtic at any time.
Yeah, Craig Govan has made a point, and we might as well read it out and see what reaction from the panel, because he's very positive. So Craig, who points out Aberdeen could certainly finish behind Celtic in second place this season. So you can tell which side of the bread Craig's buttered on with that line. That's going down like a lead balloon. But anyway, lots of people with opinions on it. Never mind the league game for Aberdeen. Hugh Scott says more realistic to try and beat Celtic in the Scottish Cup semi. Absolutely. I mean, there's one-off games where they can produce a wee bit of magic. Listen, midweek, it's all about European football, and we obviously pick pick our games. I picked Ajax Liverpool last night, which was a mistake because it was absolutely dire to watch. I should have picked Man City Porto, Roughie, or something a little bit more exciting. Who did you pick?
Man City, for me. I like the young players that they've got there, the young players that are coming in. You know, they're looking top notch. Again, he's got something to prove this year as well. So it'll be interesting to keep your eye on them.
Yeah, did you watch that game, yeah?
No, I didn't, no. I watched the highlights.
All right. Okay. All right. So there you are. Stephen, which game caught your eye last night?
I was going to watch the Bayern Munich Atletico, but I ended up putting City on, which was the wrong choice. It ended up 4-0 the Atletico game, but I ended up flicking Liverpool a bit as well. But it was, I think the biggest thing watching the games, you lose it with the fans. The fans definitely have an impact in their games as well.
Yeah, it kills it. You're right, Stephen. I mean, Tam, I wish I'd watched Bayern Munich because I watched the highlights this morning, and the boy Kingsley Coman is just on another planet from everybody else. He was magnificent in that game. Bayern Munich look as if they're the real deal. Did you watch Champions League last night, Tam?
No, of course not. I watched the £1 Million Cube on ITV presented by Philip Schofield, and it was absolutely sensational. Proper edge of your seat stuff. I'd advise everybody, forget Celtic and Rangers tonight. Honestly, the Cube was it's absolutely superb. Watch that tonight, boys.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we'll be glued to it in between the commercials. For me, it's the Rangers Standard Liège, and then onwards to Celtic AC Milan. Alan Redmond says Porto looked good last night, and all the comments on the highlights of the game that quite a few people watched as well. I watched the goal show, Better Entertainment, says Hugh Scott. Some people like watching one game, some people like watching the highlights. Here's how all those results panned out last night in the Champions League, and I just wonder if you have picked a winner of the Champions League. I can't see past Bayern Munich this season, I have to be honest with you. They got an emphatic win. Real Madrid look a shadow of the side they once were. Amazing that the two greatest players of the last 20 years in European football, Real Madrid lose Ronaldo and they just look as if they've collapsed. And over and above that, Messi's had a wee bit of a fallout with Barcelona. Would you even consider them to win it this season? I'm not so sure. Who do you think's going to win the Champions League this season, Roughie? You're surely not going with PSG again.
I've already put my hat on them. I know they get beat the other night there, but no, I'm sticking with them. They're always there or thereabouts in the last 8, yeah.
Okay. Stephen, who are you going for?
I don't think it'll be one of the big boys. I think it'll be some of the teams that are not as big in the competition. Atlanta, for instance, they're quality teams, so I think it could someday be an outsider. Are
you going for Atalanta then?
Go on then, Atlanta.
Oh, brilliant. The next 5 or 6 weeks is going to be brilliant because you're taking the heat. You're taking the heat off Roughie with that prediction. That's brilliant. Roughie's like, yeah, dancer. Anyway, apart from that, Tam, I suppose the big question, the burning question is, who do you think's going to win the Tube?
It's the Tube. I said Philip Schofield, no Jules Holland and Paula Yates. The Tube. Here's Peter Martin showing his age, eh? The Tube. But,
I loved it.
It was right. Thingamy jigs on the STV player as well with the Laird de Cookadens, Jack McLaughlin. That was STV's attempt at doing the Tube. Do you remember? But no, I'm going with Shakhtar Donetsk.
Yeah, I remember that gag so well, Tom. It was one of your best. Oh, it was one of your best gags ever. And did you get in trouble for that one?
No, the one about the lassie putting the bet on. My pal was betting Donetsk and Shakhtar. No, it doesn't matter. You get the joke. I get the joke. It was absolutely brilliant. And Lindsay McCann says, showing your age, Peter.
Absolutely. It was one of my. I know it was one of my. Do you want me to tell you something? Honestly, Roughie, he's laughing about it, but I had to explain in the last 24 hours when I was taking my daughter to school. I explained to her that up until 1982 there was only 3 television channels. And then I said, a 4th channel come on in 1982, and everybody was celebrating as if this was a man landing on the moon. Channel 4, Paul Koya announces Channel 4 starts, and you had great programmes like the Tube on then, but now there's channels everywhere, and thankfully for us,
although there are people tuned in in Girvan, Peter, wondering what you're talking about.
Were you trying to think of a place where you thought, I might not have a gig there next year? I'll mention Girvan. Anyway, Tam's like that to me. What are gigs? Now, before we go, I have to tell you this. There's a great chance for you to win a fantastic set of giveaways that we've got. The prizes on offer are absolutely magnificent. Have a wee look at what we've got on offer for you, and it's a simple like, share, follow, or subscribe. You could win all these fantastic prizes by entering our competition. If you like what you see, you can share it with your friends, and you can follow us for all the latest breaking football news. Join the football family at PLZ Soccer on Facebook, and you could win all these fantastic prizes. Good luck for that. Sorry I was showing my age there. The amount of people who've mentioned, wow, the first show on... Tam, what was the first show on Channel 4?
The first show on Channel 4, after it was introduced by Scotland's very own Paul Koya in November 1982, was Countdown. And it's still going strong. And as a big fan of the Tube, Peter, I'll throw in an extra prize. It's still got the cellophane on it. The nation's favourite 80s number ones. What a triple C. I'm a CD collectioner now. We'll throw that in as an extra prize as well, as a wee homage to all things Jules Holland, Paula Yates and the Tube, okay?
Absolutely fantastic. Roughie, did you ever watch the Tube, Roughie?
I probably did at some stage, but I don't remember. I wasn't into music. We were too busy playing football to be really interested, and then it was going on then.
Yeah. That's good. I'm glad you've narrowed it down to football. Anyway, on that note, thank you very much to everyone for joining us. Don't forget to like, share, and follow. Look at Naismith, ready to just burst out in fits of laughter. I'm not even going to ask you about the Tube, because I know you weren't even born when it came on air. So I'm not even going to bother with you on that one. Anyway, apart from anything else, like, share, and follow us on our Facebook. And if you get a chance, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you to so many people. Over the course of the last week, the figures for people tuning into the programme, especially on the Saturday for our Old Firm special, was absolutely magnificent. We really do appreciate the fact that the majority, 99% of the fans who watch this programme, love their club and put across really good, informed comments. And we are absolutely delighted that you're joining the football family. And hopefully you like the pundits we've got here. They love their football as well. Doesn't get any better than Steven Naismith, Tam Cowan and Roughie. And from myself, Peter Martin, thanks to you for watching.
Expect the best used car deals guaranteed.